Hey everyone, welcome back to the Foundations in Pre-Calculus 10 videos. In this video, we're looking at Lesson 4 from Chapter 7, which is looking at using a substitution strategy to solve a system of linear equations. So a system of linear equations is where you have a collection of two or more linear equations. So a solution to a system of linear equations is where you have an x and y coordinate that satisfies both of those equations. We can use two different algebraic methods to solve a system, and one that we're going to look at today is called solving by substitution. So essentially in substitution, we can transform that system into a single equation. So then we can use what we know about solving linear equations to determine the value of that variable. So essentially what we're going to do is that we're going to combine two equations, which removes one of the variables. So then we only have one variable left to work with, and then that makes our lives a little bit easier. So last point here is in order to verify our solution, we must check that coordinate, that x and y coordinate, satisfies both of those equations. You have to do both. You can't just do one in case you made an error and your coordinate magically worked for the first one, but maybe it didn't for the second. So make sure you check out your work for both equations to make sure that you've answered this properly. So in this video, we're going to be looking at example number 1. So here we're going to solve this linear system by using substitution. Then we're going to verify our solutions. So here we have two equations. Here we have 5x minus 3y is equal to 18. And our second equation is 4x minus 6y is equal to 18. So what we're going to do here is our first step is that we're going to choose one equation we're going to solve for y. So you're solve for y. And so what I recommend is you can either choose, I guess for these types of examples, there's really no preference of which one you choose. There will be a little bit more when you guys get to a little bit more of the advanced maths, but we're not going to worry about that now. So here I'm just going to choose the first equation. So here we have 5x minus 3y is equal to 18. And here I'm going to solve for y. So I'm going to use my proper rules for solving for our equations. And so what I want to do is I want to move the stuff over that's farthest away from y, or I always do your adding and subtracting first. So here we have a positive 5x. I want to subtract 5x. And then make sure what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So 5x minus 5x makes 0. So I'm left with negative 3y is equal to. Here 18 and negative 5x are not like terms, so we cannot subtract the two. So you have to just write them as they are. Then my last step here is I want just y, so I'm going to divide by the number that's connected with it. So negative 3 divided by negative 3. And make sure you divide with each term in that equation. So here I'm left with just y is equal to, and 18 divided by negative 3 is negative 6. And then negative 5x divided by negative 3. This makes a decimal, so we are going to leave this in fraction form, but we can simplify this negative divided by negative, which is just a positive. So leave it as plus 5x over 3. So then what we're going to do is, now we know that y is equal to negative 6 plus 5x over 3. And in our second equation, these y's mean the same thing, so you're going to plug in this right-hand side into y in our second equation. So substitute y. And it's important that it goes into your other equation. So in this case here, because I chose equation number 1, I'm going to put it in for equation number 2. So here we have 4x minus 6. So instead of y, I'm going to put in this whole right-hand side, and make sure you put this in brackets. So this will be negative 6 plus 5x over 3. And then that was equal to 18. So in order to solve for x here, I need to get rid of these brackets, and I can't add these two terms together, so what I can do is distribute this negative 6. So I'm going to shoot my arrows. So 4x, I've done nothing with that one. And then negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36. And then negative 6 times 5x over 3. I'll just write that one out so I can show my steps here. That's equal to 18. So here we have 4x plus 36. So here when you have a whole number and a fraction, you're going to multiply that whole number in the numerator. So it's negative 6 times 5x is negative 30x. And then your denominator stays the same. Make sure also just to keep writing down all the information, even if you're not working with it at that moment, but that way you don't forget to add or subtract, or that way you don't accidentally skip a step when you're solving. So I can simplify our fraction here because 30 divided by 3 is just 10. So we have 4x plus 36 minus 10x is equal to 18. So then I can combine like terms. So we can add 4x and negative 10x to give us negative 6x, and then plus this 36 is equal to 18. So we're almost done here. Now what we need to do is we need to get rid of this plus 36. We're going to subtract 36. And what you do one side, make sure you do to the other. So what we're left with here is negative 6x is equal to negative 18. So then here I want to get rid of this negative 6, and it's multiplying here, so I'm going to divide by negative 6 on each side. So negative 6 divided by negative 6 is just 1, so I'm left with x is equal to, and negative 18 divided by negative 6 is just positive 3. So here we have that x is equal to positive 3. So now we have one of our variables. So in order to find our y-coordinates, you're just going to choose one of the equations that, one of those original equations, and then we're going to substitute in 3 for x. So third step here is to find y. And at this part here, it doesn't matter which equation you choose, just make sure obviously to do your work right. If you ever have some more complicated examples, I might recommend, or equations, sorry, I would recommend choosing your simpler equation, but in this case here, they're both pretty simple. So it doesn't matter which one you choose, and just for simplicity, I'll just choose our first one here, where we had 5x minus 3y was equal to 18. So here I'm going to put in 3 in for x, so we have 5 times 3 minus 3y is equal to 18. Working with, I'm going to multiply these two numbers, so 5 times 3 is 15, then minus 3y is equal to 18. Now I want to get y by itself, and so my first step here is to get rid of this 15. So I need to subtract by 15 to make that 0. So those cancel out, so I'm left with just negative 3y is equal to positive 3. Then my last step here is I want to get rid of that negative 3, so I'm going to divide by negative 3. And here I'm left with y is equal to 3 divided by negative 3 is just negative 1. So this here is my solution. So I could say, therefore, I could just write this as a coordinate. So I write my x coordinate first, comma, my y coordinates. So my answer, or my solution to this system of equations is 3 and negative 1. So once we found an answer, we do need to make sure we go back and verify this answer, because we want to make sure we're getting all those questions correct, getting the most marks as we possibly can. And even if my questions don't ask you to verify, I would always recommend verifying, because then you're almost guaranteed to get 100% on all of these questions. So here we're going to verify. And so remember, as I said earlier, in order to verify, you need to put this into both equations. So with my first equation, we had 5x minus 3y is equal to 18. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my x and y coordinate into that equation and solve. And make sure you guys use your original equation in case you guys made a mistake when you guys were solving for y. So always use those original equations. So here we have 5 times 3 minus 3 times negative 1 is equal to 18. So then 5 times 3 is 15. And then negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. That's equal to 18. Adding those together, we see that 18 is equal to 18. And you must actually show this, and you do need to show some work. That way it can make sure you didn't just assume that you were correct, and then you end up getting the wrong answer. So you need to show your work, and you also need to show this last step, that 18 is equal to 18. Very important for your verifying. So now we're going to plug this into our second equation. So our second equation there was 4x minus 6y is equal to 18. Same idea, I'm going to plug in x and y. So we have 4 times 3 minus 6 times negative 1, that's equal to 18. So here we have 4 times 3 is 12. Negative 6 times negative 1 is positive 6. And that's equal to 18. Adding these two together here, we get 18 is equal to 18. And here we've shown that our solution, 3 and negative 1, works for both equations, which means that it is a solution to our system of equations. So that is everything here for this video. So if you guys have any questions, make sure to come see me in class, or you can text me on Remind 101. Thank you so much for watching.